It's inauguration day, and I'm with wickedstocks.com. President Trump gets into the office today. He swears in, and things are about to look different for the next 4 years. We already started off with a radical weekend with TikTok being banned for about 8 hours, and now it's back up. We're thinking Trump, but anybody who looks in deeper can realize it was kind of more of a PR stunt. But hey, we're let's get on the stock market, man. I'm with Wicked Stocks. Cary here today. He's back again. We went over some of the stocks that we're gonna be showing you guys on this show. This Marathon Money episode 326. I think the first one we're gonna go is the Amazon of Africa. But Cary, if you have
Oh,
something to say before we start, let me know.
no, well, I'm wickedstocks.com. It's a stock advisory service online entirely. And the subscription side of it is we cover daily triple Q, daily SPY, weekly Apple analysis, weekly S&P 500 index, weekly NASDAQ 100 index, and two individual stock picks every week that catered kind of the 3 to 5 week out to the 3 to 5 month near-term investor, swing trader. We've been doing it for 4 years now. I've got 30 years in the commodity industry out of the Chicago Board of Trade, and I still have a commodity advisory that I operate every day. And so about 4 years ago, I started Wicked Stocks with my kids, and the three of us are having a blast, and the business is growing, and I appreciate the opportunity, Kenny, for talking about it. But you want to take a look at the, where are we here? I have to go to present. Sorry, share the screen. I'll take us to the stock picks. And you wanted to take a look at Jumia. Did you want to say anything about this?
All right. So we all know, I don't know if you guys caught up with the latest news. Pretty much about almost 800 shares. JP Morgan bought 800 shares over the weekend, or at least in the third quarter. They said they bought 800 shares of Junior JMIA. People call it the African Amazon. They're doing pretty well. They're expanding. Their burn rate decreased by 64%, and they have a humongous runway in front of them because they have a lot of cash reserve to really push that runway. So we're gonna go quickly over the chart for those people that was asking me out there. It's like, yo, what's going on with this stock? What's going on with this stock? And we're gonna go over it. Cary pulled up the stock chart. By the way, this is range candles, range charts. So you guys don't understand that. Maybe one day me and Cary can go over how these work. And also, a lot of people, I saw a few people ask me about the channels that we use. I am
Hmm.
sorry, I should have mentioned it. I know what channeling is. I use it almost every day, but I get to the point where I can look at a chart and see where the channel is. I'm pretty sure Cary can look at the chart and see where the channel is without having to draw it anymore. Um,
Sure.
you know what I mean? But
Roughly, yeah.
yeah, but we can go over that another day. But this is a range chart. It's pretty good to use for technical traders. And then the lines you have drawn is like trend lines where they're in a channel. So we're gonna go over that. Cary, you want to take it off from there?
Sure. Well, with respect to channels, I love them because they really show the pattern here. You can see these bullish and bearish rotational sequences that occur inside. This is a weekly chart. So this low here is actually September of 24, about, I don't know, 5, 6 months ago. And you can see we came close to reaching the top of this channel. It was at 5.48 that week of December 9th, and the high was 5.34. And then we backed away. And so really, near term, you've got a 5 week channel that we drew right before the show at 416. That is the entire week of January 21st. That is your near term ceiling. We could place a weekly high there, perhaps. If you're, in my opinion, if you're looking to buy this stock, you're doing it on strength. You could consider, if you're just a pure technical trader, bottom picking that 352 low that was put out in November. Last week, we got down to 360. So that's an obvious area to buy it. But I think right now on strength, you buy it above 416 and you ride it up to 515. This could be a 1 week blast. This could happen within 3 to 5 days. We could close perhaps above 416 on a Monday and rally to 515 by a Friday, because you can see there's plenty of precedent for that kind of volatility. But 515 is also your longer term breakout. It is sellable resistance, especially if you already owned it from 416. That's a nice 20% pop to the upside alone right there. But if we close above 515, I think this thing is a longer term play. And I'm just looking at this chart right now. And what I would begin to look at would be, something like this, perhaps, where you've got this longer term possibility, this breakout where you can get a rally that is not altogether different than the big sell off. And I don't want to get too excited about that, but I'm just saying I would be an owner above 515 long term and just let that thing play out. That's kind of what I see, Kenny.
Yeah, so I kind of see the same thing for people that not on Marathon Money Plus. I did buy an option on this. Earnings does come out next month in February, so and that's supposed to be a big earnings for them as well. A lot of news circulations around that earnings, and on the chart, let me see. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna pull up more of a. Let me see if I can pull up the
Do you want
candle
me to
chart.
stop sharing and head and let
No,
you? Okay, you
uh,
can do it.
yeah, I got it from here.
Okay.
But let me see. Do you see my okay? Mine's is up. So I'm on the candlestick chart. I know everybody was asking me about this. There is a gap down. So if you look at okay, now you can see kind of where I made my channels. But you can
Okay,
see a
sure.
gap down here.
On the daily
On
chart,
the
sure, I see that.
daily chart, there's a gap down here. Cary is right. If it can break out of that 515, and more likely gonna fill that gap up into like $8 range. And from there on, if it can break past $10, it's probably gonna be a long term all the way to me, $22, 22,
Hmm.
23 bucks. I don't know what you think, but that's my opinion. I think that can happen by the end of this year.
Hmm.
Obviously, depends on news circulation, depending on how things roll out for them. Definitely, if they keep decreasing their burn rate and more sales start coming in, and they start dominating their space and start getting into other spaces as well. So this is a long term play, but I think we're probably going to see above 5 before April. So it's kind of more of a waiting game. That's kind of where I'm at on that.
Sounds good. I would agree with you. That channel that I showed earlier, for me, that's the buy and hold and just see where it goes. And I think that 20 bucks you talked about is certainly not out of the question.
Yeah. So man, let's get on the QQQ. Let's get on the overall market.
Okay.
Um, I know you have that chart already up. Let me know what you think. I
Let
definitely
me take,
have.
okay. So I've got this is a long-term chart of the triple Q. I think I showed this in last week's show. And so what we're seeing here, this is a 5-year channel structure that we closed above a couple of months ago that at the time I was indicating continued gains, but then we had a series of, events and inflationary scares and non-inflationary, reactions. And so what I'm seeing here technically is we could trade both sides of this. It's like a magnet, and day trading this 517.28 level has been great for the last month and a half. But the question is, where are we going from here? And for me, a clarity emerges on the daily chart, which I can show. Did I lose my daily chart? No, I didn't. There you are. Here's the daily chart. Once again, channel structure. We rallied up to this channel that is at 522.92 tomorrow, Tuesday, the 21st. And this is my breakout to the upside. It's dropping every day. We do analyze this every day on wickedstocks.com. But if we can close above 522.92 on Tuesday, I see a breakout. 539.15, that December high, probably by Friday's close of this week. And over the next 3 to 5 weeks, say by the end of February, we can push on up to this 556.24. And this is this goes back to the August low. This is a 6-month channel in itself, can contain monthly buying pressures. We could stall out here into March and fall away perhaps. But I do think longer term, the NASDAQ is clearly in a bullish breakout mode, and that is confirmed above 522.92. I'm a buyer. This week, though, unless we can get above this channel, we could collapse all the way back again. So that is the only issue I have. We need to close above 522.92. on Tuesday to set this thing in play. Otherwise, we are susceptible to falling all the way back really to the channel bottom that is presently in the mid 490s and dropping.
What do you think is gonna make us fall all the way back? What
Well,
kind of things you need to see out in the market that would push the QQ down, and what do you think is
Trump is
gonna push it
president.
up?
Trump is president later today. I know they've got a full agenda, a sweeping executive orders. I don't know really what's going to happen or what's not going to happen. I don't think anybody really does. But let's say that he comes out with a 100% tariff hike on Mexican imports, or whatever the case might be. I really don't know. He's talked that way, and if these tariff threats become real this week, if they become law, I think that in itself will spook the market. I think if it's just the opposite, if it's more of a bark than a bite, the market will digest that, and I think you'll see this breakout in a continued rally. Not that the tariffs are inevitably bearish, but I do think the financial community is spooked by the possibility of them, of an all-out trade war, and the consequences of that. So I think that could be it. In terms of economic data, I'm not quite sure, but we've had inflationary threats. What I mean by that is you've got Powell right around in this area mentioning, that we're probably done lowering rates for the time being. And then last week we see inflation is well under control, and that gave the perception is that gives the Fed room to actually lower rates after all as we continue into later years. So there's a lot of mixed stuff going on here. But in pure technicals, I'm a buyer of the triple Q into February if we can close a Tuesday above 522.92. Until then, we could quite easily rotate back, like you can see in this chart. We could rotate all the way back into the mid 490s and dropping over the next 1 to 2 weeks.
To go back on what you were saying, you know, a lot of big tech companies that are in the Nasdaq is going to be at today's inauguration. Facebook,
Hmm.
Elon Musk, Netflix CEO. There's going to be
Sure.
a lot of big name tech companies that's going to be headed to the inauguration today, and I think whatever speech is being made today would determine how the stock market is going to move on Tuesday.
Yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that for sure.
Do you think we should? Let's go over like Tesla. I don't know if you have that chart.
I don't right in front of me, but I'm going to. I don't have Tesla ready to go, but I know I got it in my basket of goods here. And so, oops, there we go. Yeah, I don't.
I know Palantir
Yeah,
is going to be there today.
yeah.
Um,
We want to go into that because I'm not fully
yeah,
ready with Tesla. I mean, I did
uh,
cover Tesla a little bit last week, but let's go into Palantir. There it is, right here. I've got two charts. And one is, and I can walk us back. I mean, Wicked Stocks did cover this buy signal. This is back in September when we closed above this rising channel that was at 33.20 at the time. And all we were expecting was a retest of this all-time high back in January 21 of 45 even. And we topped out there. That was a nice 50% play in itself. And we were patting ourselves in the back. And then we took this high out. And the only thing I could see on the chart after that, because there's no precedent for any price levels in this area, was what I call the full swing, which is basically taking the previous all-time high of 45, subtracting that pullback low of 592, and then flipping it on its head. 45 minus 592 plus 45 is 8408, and that actual high was 8479. So we did that full swing, and now we've backed away. And what I see in terms of kind of the near to midterm is you have this obvious challenge up above at 84.79. Closing above it results in more of this sort of parabolic move to the upside. I'm not even ready to say where that might go just yet, but I will say that this is a speed line. When you get this blast like this, channel structures, they don't even really exist. I mean, you've got to go back to this chart to see a realistic channel that was a breakout. So coming on the way back down, I don't really have channels, but I do have a speed line that's a trend defining line study I've used for years. It supplements my channel structures. And the way I see it is it projects off this low from December 22, 592. It takes into account this high. It is a line. In other words, if I were to draw the speed line is where the trend line is, where this high is, this time frame, this is exactly the 0.333% pullback from that high to that low. That's pretty much how you draw them, just for the quick of it. But it is 60.55 and rising this week, next week to 6106. It's rising about a half a point a week. Low 60s support can contain selling through February, possibly a first quarter low. And then from here, we can round back up into the mid 80s. We could fill this wedge out for the next 3-4 months, perhaps. If we close below 60.55, we continue unwinding. You've got a 50% downside retracement at 45.47. That's very consistent with this 45 high. But overall, when you close below a rising 1/3 speed line, you can't discount the possibility of a rising 2/3 speed line that takes you all the way back into the low 30s. So if we were to close below 60.55, I'm a net seller of Palantir. I would exit long positions. I would ride it down to the mid 40s, bottom pick the mid 40s perhaps, but hold out for the possibility of what would be the mid 30s. And this area is a solid zone to buy into through all of 25. But that hasn't happened. And until then, we could bottom out at 60.55, rally back into the mid 80s. If we can close above 84.79, it's more where that came. This thing can actually just sort of explode again.
No, just I agree with you. If it drops below 60, it could go down to, that range where, mid 40s, where it might be accumulation range. But just
Hmm.
from past experiences, when I see charts like this, once it gets to that 60, that 58, 59 range, it just demand just eats it up. And if demand can eat it up all the way past to $85, you're more likely going to see a rise to pretty much $100 from Palantir. And I think
At this point,
Palantir
I
had,
agree with you.
yeah,
Here
Palantir,
again is your full swing. Go ahead.
yeah. If you do the full
Where
swing,
Yeah, if you do the full swing from this high to the low from last week, that takes you up to 106.18. So I completely agree with you. That would be my next target. If we were close above 84.79 over the next few weeks, looking for 106 roughly as the next quick objective, like within 2 to 3, 3 to 5 weeks.
I completely agree. The only thing that slows down my time frame is the float shares. Palantir has over 2 billion float shares, and I always want to make sure people have that in mind. Like, the move is not going to be as quick. Like, I wouldn't really play an option on this unless you knew something that the rest of the world didn't know.
Hmm.
Unless you're really just playing a year out option, and you happen to get that option at a good price for those option players.
Yeah,
But this to me, if it right now we're at $71. Am I correct? $71, right?
71.77 last. Yeah, that was Friday's
Yeah.
close.
That was Friday's close. To me, I'm looking for the communication. I'm buying shares. I'm looking for that $60 range. Maybe wait a little bit if you're still unsure. Um, I would see like maybe a good candle close or a full range close, and then get in and buy. Um, but to me, $60, $58, 57, 59, those areas, or 61 are like to me accumulation range. So buy shares. And you
I
and
would
if it
agree.
does break out of, what I mean, I would, and I'm also a person that say, you get it at $60, it gets back up into the 80 range, start selling some of your profits, start like decreasing your position, at least take the money off that you put in off the table, in my opinion, because you'll be from $60 to 84. You're kind of $24 up at that point.
Sure.
um
And I agree. I think
so
what you're saying, which is this two-sided framework, selling the mid 80s, buying the low 60s, you could do that all the way into the middle part of the year, perhaps. And what happened last week is we broke to a new pullback low following that high, and then we closed higher on the week. So that's a bit of a stabilizing event, suggests more of a consolidation, if not outright upward continuation back into the mid 80s.
and like I said, Palantir is part of the nat like the Nasdaq, the tech companies. Anything that could be said today at inauguration could change the trajectory of anything, because I feel like we're every kind of, if you're gonna, the stocks today, I feel like we're most of the tech stocks are kind of at this midpoint, you know.
Right.
So
I agree too. We've had an incredible run. AI is taking a breather for the time being. It's what's really caused the Nasdaq to fall away. Apple has had a big sell-off. We had that pegged pretty well at wickedstocks.com. It hit a 5-year channel top as well about 5 or 6 weeks ago. So yeah, there's just a bit of a mixed bag going on now in the tech community. So there's a big question as to what is the longer term directional likelihood, right?
and I think I think today is going to be a big, a direction point, and Trump's got a lot of things he wants to do and hustle and do in the first 100 days. So let's see how things go. But I'm pretty sure today's speech, and Trump is one of those people that he wants his speech to have some type of money effect, and everybody knows it. So depending on what happens today, you'll notice the stocks that we bring up, they'll be somewhat at a midpoint where they're kind of just like waiting,
Yes.
where
I would have
if it
described that
was in
very,
a,
very well.
yeah.
Mhm.
So I think the next stock is like Robinhood, you know.
Okay, yeah, we can take a look at that. We looked at Jumia already, so I'm going to go ahead and minimize that. Robinhood. So Robinhood, I can go back. We had this also covered at Wicked Stocks. This is one of your classic channels. Once again, we're always looking at these setups because they work so well. I mean, there's nothing 100% about them, but we closed above this well-defined channel back in November, and it's set up really. This 5/8 Fibonacci was the mid 50s objective big picture. There was a 3/8 on the way up that we've since taken out. But I just kind of to catch us up, last week we closed above this 42.76 to 43.83 area. I think this is bottom picking now for the next 1 to 3 weeks, during which we should maybe this week push on up to 53.18. 53.18 is this rising channel top. It actually coincides about a week with the 55.13 5/8 Fibonacci. That's a 5/8 Fibonacci from this 85 high to the extreme low from June of 22. So this is going to be a big test, 55.13. And it also coincides with the rising channel top. And this channel goes back to November. So this is a 3-4 month channel. It can contain monthly buying pressures. We might even fall away from here into March, April. Hard to say. If we close above 55.13, though, I do see this 85 high, all-time high, as a retest. And this could be within 3 to 5 months of closing above 55.13. Until then, if you're long Robinhood, you've been long for a while, you really have to respect the mid 50s as an area where we could get exhausted and fall away from. In fact, I can show the downside on Robinhood right now. Once again, I showed this 42.76, 43.83, just closing back below this area this week does indicate what is really the mid 30s, a new rising channel bottom based in part on last week's high. And the speed line that I mentioned before, a rising 1/3 speed line off that June 22 low of 681, that also comes in at 35.48. So closing below 42.76, I'd expect the mid 30s within 1 to 2 weeks, where you can buy this stock all the way into the second quarter. This is a solid zone to buy into long term. I don't know if we'll see it or not. If we close below 42.76, we will. Until then, get ready for 55.13 over the next 1 to 3 weeks. Once again, this area at 55.13, able to contain buying on a monthly basis. If you're not long Robinhood now, you're either buying a settlement above 55.13 at the end of this week, or B, you're waiting for retracement near term into the low 40s, or potentially into the mid 30s, where that would be the extent of any sell off right now. If for whatever reason, over the next month or two, we close below 35.48, I don't see any compelling reason to be long Robinhood as we move into later year. So I don't know if that lines up with what
No,
you're
it
seeing, Kenny.
no, it definitely lines up with what I'm seeing, and a lot of what you're seeing here is Robinhood making a lot of promises for 2025, and there's a
Hmm.
lot anticipation on those promises because they're really being aggressive this year with the opportunities that they have. Now, execution is the key to this game, and if Robinhood doesn't really execute the things that they have set out for 2025, more likely you'll probably start seeing a downtrend, what Cary's talking about. A lot of things that Robinhood in the past took a lot of hits because of how things went down with the GameStop trading. So we might see how things go out this year for Robinhood. And if it does break above, that February 3rd, 56.15, you're probably going to start seeing $90. That's probably going to be a straight shot of $90 before the end of the year. It's
Acceleration too. I
Yeah,
think that
it's going to be
more
a
it's gonna be
massive
quick.
acceleration to the upside.
Hmm.
And Robinhood is really becoming a true player in the trading game and the easy access to getting into trading. The bar is
Hmm.
extremely low. I don't for to access into investing, access into trading, people trading stocks, the bar is extremely low now. And I think Robinhood has definitely changed the landscape of that. And I think they're being innovative on how things are going to be moving forward and by leading the way. Because they're also
Hmm.
pushing for 24-hour trading for the
Sure.
stock market. I don't know what
Hmm.
you think about that.
It could. I need to have a start and a finish to my day because I'm a bar chart analyst. So line studies, where you're looking at line charts, that would be the next thing, and it's not so much time oriented; it's more price oriented. But I like the time element. I don't have a problem with 24/7 trading. I mean, I've been doing it in the futures markets for years, but there is an end of the day in the beginning of the day, even though they're a minute or sometimes 10 minutes apart. That's my only issue, is just so that things look more technically sensible on an actual bar chart, a weekly chart. Weekly charts, no problem. End of the week. Well, once again, if we're trading 24/7, is that Saturdays and Sundays as well through the weekends?
I don't know. I think it's 24 5 days a week, 24 hours. I think
Okay.
that's what they're
Well, then the
going
bar
for.
chart would still make sense. The daily bar chart, though, could be a bit of a head scratcher. That's my only, but I'll get around it. I don't have a problem with it. I like the accessibility of the markets. I think if news hits and you're hung in a position and it's going against you, the last thing you want to be is stuck in a trade. I mean, then this actually underscores the importance of options and hedging. You know, so anyway,
Man,
yeah.
let's get DJT.
All right. Okay. Yes, there we go. Trump Media and Technology Group, DJT. So this is a situation where you kind of alluded to it just a few minutes ago, where I don't see a compelling reason to buy DJT unless we can close above this well-defined channel top that we topped out at last week. And this is a short-term play. 43.82 is a ceiling of resistance this week that just might contain a weekly highs. And in fact, I'll shift back to this chart to show that there's a channel bottom at 35.62. So if I'm a day trader, or I'm trading just for the next 3 to 5 day swing trade, I'm buying 35.62 and I'm selling 43.82. And we could trade inside of this all week long. But if we close above 43.82, even at the end of a day, and this is a weekly chart, by the way, then I'm looking for, once again, this what is kind of the mid to upper 50s. You've got these highs, this pullback high of 56.55. You've got this pullback high of October of last year at 54.68. This is an obvious zone of resistance. A quick, maybe 1 week target. 3 to 5 days wouldn't surprise me. You can see that kind of volatility has precedent here. And to boot, you have this pretty clearly defined channel formation coming down that I think is your breakout for DJT as we continue into later year. That's at 59.19 and dropping. Next week, it's at 58.72, so forth and so on. They all converge in later February, the channel top and these highs. So this will be a big buy signal. If we can get above it, I would expect at least the 79.38 high from March of 24, and probably even more. In fact, I can look already that I would have this channel top as an objective. And lo and behold, by late February, it converges with that high anyway. of the upper 70s, 79.38. So that kind of covers the upside for DJT. I'm an all-in buyer with a settlement above 43.82. And I'm willing to bottom pick ever so gingerly 35.62. But if we close below 35.62, forget about it. This thing falls away again, back to 26.36, which is that November low. This could be within 1 to 2 weeks. And I do think the risk is to the downside. If we close below this classic rising channel bottom of 35.62 this week, I do see DJT as possibly falling all the way back to this 1175 low that was put out in September, because it also coincides with a well-defined descending channel bottom that is presently at 1548 and converges with that February low, the September low in February. So we could, if we close below 35.62, I'm looking for about a $10 sell-off, possibly in the order of $20 as we continue into March, April. And I don't mean to be bearish this stock, because I'm not. I'm bearish under a certain condition, and that is closing below 35.62. Until then, you have a well-defined uptrend near term, and closing
I,
above 43.82 is an accelerator.
I completely agree. I completely agree with you with that. And my opinion why I think is extremely bearish, why I think it's going to $70. It's simple fact that I think Trump is becoming president. His name is tied to this media group, and I just don't
Mm-hmm.
see him not using this media group in his presidency.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this is a speculation, a conspiracy theory, or a rumor that everybody's kind of waiting on. He becomes president. There's more likely Trump media group is going to be involved in some shape or form in his presidency. Um, I just think that there is a strong resistance to the upside, strong support to the upside, but
Mm-hmm.
that's also tied to his presidency going well as well. Um,
So
besides
there's
that,
latent demand on the sidelines. You think there's a lot of
yeah,
money
like I think
potentially
because like
behind
if
this?
you look at
Mm-hmm.
the chart and you look, even if you look at the chart, you kind of see it's like it's still in the middle. It's like there is
Right.
no, it wants to break out, but it just hasn't. If you look at the chart, you can see almost everything is at the top of the chart, top of the channel. You can see
Mm-hmm.
everything's at the top of the channel. It wants to break out.
Right.
It needs a strong reason to. And I think this is one of those stocks that in the first 100 days, don't be surprised if you see it at above 54, $56, almost heading towards 60.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if we get this breakout, I think, and now that I'm looking at this, I do think it's this channel that you have to respect as your objective back to those highs. Now, I don't want to disqualify the mid 50s, upper 50s. This is going to be a big test. But I agree with you. I think in terms of just sort of the emotional, the sentimental aspect of the presidency, the wider use of Trump media as we move into the first year, I think you're right. But from a pure technical basis, I'm not comfortable buying it unless we can close above 43.82, because I think then the risk is at least back into the mid 30s over the next, possibly this week. And if we close below that, then I'm out altogether.
Correct. I agree with you on that. Though that right there, I call accumulation stage. This is
Hmm.
where you take a big risk on accumulating the stock, and hoping that it keeps hitting the top of the channel and looking for a breakthrough. Eventually, you only can hit the top of the channel so many times before it's actually said, "Okay, I'm
Right.
tired," and then head back down, and people start giving up on the stock. Um, but I think there's going to be some reason for it to break and accelerate to the $60 mark.
Hmm. Okay, I see. I can see that. I'm all in about 43.82. I always go back to the technicals because this
Hey,
is
that's
my
complete.
this.
No, that's completely understand. I'm like,
Mhm.
more to me. This is I understand it from a perspective of technically you are 80% safe when you're above 43.82. Um,
Yes.
but for those people that want to trade in the channel, and if it's not falling below 35, what I
Hmm.
mean. If it doesn't fall below 35, then buy as much as you can.
Sure.
If it's as much as you can, accumulate as much as you can if it's not going to fall below 35. Because it's also, if it keeps touching that mid 30s range and not dropping below, it's kind of like, okay, there might be a shot where, like, okay, we hear some good news, uh, profits, whatever, good revenue report, whatever comes out, and this thing shoots up, and then it starts making a new channel range and a new
Right.
price area above. So,
I agree with you. I think you can
but
buy the mid-30s aggressively.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think buying into strength is always a good trading idea.
I do
Buying into
too.
strength,
Odds
it's
favor
always a good,
that. Yes.
yeah. Buying
Buy
into
on
strength
strength.
is always a good trading
Mhm.
idea, but there's a lot of people, you know, that like to accumulate, and if it works out, it's obviously you're going to make more money than the guy buying into strength. You know what I mean?
Right. I
So,
always present that in Wicked Stocks, by the way. I say, some of you, I say, here's your bottom picking 35.62.
mhm,
Some of you are uncomfortable buying weakness because by definition, if you were to buy 35.62, you're buying into a falling market. And so if you're uncomfortable buying 35.62 and you want to own DJT into February, then you're buying on strength above 43.82. Until then, this is sort of your no man's land of activity, right?
yeah. Correct. That's what I'm saying. It's like if you're somebody like to just hoard the stock, just buy as much as you can, and if it doesn't fall below, the bottom of the channel, then do
Hmm.
it, because it does work. Because it doesn't fall below bottom of the channel, and then it does a full swing to the upside, you make out like a
Hmm.
bandit.
True. That's true. What else you
Les
want to look at?
Broadcom.
Broadcom. All right. So I'll start with Broadcom. So Broadcom, we covered this in Wicked Stocks 2 a month and a half ago. We actually were expecting this based on a previous buy signal. This channel top that is now 220.65. We closed above it the week of December 9th. And so this is kind of your no man's land. Like, what next? I can go through, we've got what I use as the full channel extension. This has been our target now since that breakout. Above 220.65, I think you can buy the low 220s because above the low 220s, well, this week we probably rally back to 241.75. 241.75 is nothing more than the high settlement price that was put out the week of December 23rd. And what's also consistent with 241.75 is it is, remember the full swing I told you about where you take this high minus this low and you flip it on its head, that takes you up to that high settlement price. So 241.75 is the next buy signal on strength. I like bottom picking the low 220s, but if you can't get in down here, you're buying a settlement above 241.75. And then I think we continue onward and upward. Within a couple, 2-3 months, maybe at the most, we could see another rally like this where it happens within 3 to 5 weeks to 293.33. These full channel extensions, which is, you break out of this channel, so it's an equal width to the channel we broke out with to the upside. It's a great targeting mechanism. They work pretty well. And so we've been expecting the low 290s and climbing since the buy signal early December. And if we can close above 241.75 this week, I think we'll see this say by the end of April, if not sooner. Downside, you've got not only 220.65 as your support, but you also have the low of the high, which is also a pretty solid downward pivot point on a weekly bar chart. So you got to give this a little room. If we close below 220.65, that is not a sell signal that's reliable, in my opinion, until we also then close below 217.58. And if we do close below 217.58, then I would expect, just sort of falling back into this, what is now a zone of support between 172.36 and 185.16. 185.16, that's a no-brainer. This is an old shelf top consolidative high area that played out from June, continued until the breakout in early December. This is an obvious zone of support, and it also happens to coincide by early March with this newly formed rising channel bottom that is based in part on that December 16 high. So if we close below 217.58, if you're long Broadcom, just know that the risk is now back into the mid 180s within a month or two, where you could bottom pick this market because from here we could round back up again into later 25. We've got a newly defined bull trend above 172.36. I don't expect it unless we close below 217.58. Until then, all systems go to the upside. We are in long-term breakout mode above 220.65, expecting the 290s and climbing. And if we close above 241.75 at the end of this week, we are no longer going to be testing this channel top, but rather onward and upward into the 290s. It's kind of the way I see it, Kenny.
No, I see it. I see it the same way, and I agree with you. I wouldn't really touch this because I feel like it's coming down to that 185 range.
Mm-hmm.
But the chart that you picture in the channel is accurate to me. I wouldn't really touch it because I feel like there was a gap up. Um, I really like the using gap ups and gap down, but there was a gap up back in December 12th from, it was opening at 180, and then the
On the
gap up
daily
was the
chart, I see.
yeah, on the
Mhm.
daily chart, the 213.90. Um this is going to turn out, and I might be saying it early, and I'll show you the daily chart on my end real quick. And
Okay. Can you
and I
do I need to stop sharing?
you don't need to stop sharing. You can
Okay.
keep yours up because we both can do it at right at that. Sorry guys. But right here you see the if you look right here, you'll see the gap that I'm showing
Mm-hmm.
circling around, and that's from 180 to don't worry about that. I don't know why it's still
I see
doing
it.
that.
That is
Yeah,
quite a gap.
that is
Mm-hmm.
quite a gap. So I know this might be early to tell. But you see right here is, to me, it's already forming a bull flag. So you're probably gonna get a slow range down to that 185 mark that Cary was talking about. And
Mm-hmm.
that's just past experience. That might not happen, but it's past experiences. When you look at charts so many times over the years, you kind of can like make a educated 70-80% educated guess, but it might be a slow gather all the way down to 185, and then you're probably going to see that bull flag pop right back up to like 230 range. um I the last stock we were talking about buying into weakness, I wouldn't buy into this weakness. I would be patient and
Mm-hmm.
wait on the sidelines. Um, it's just because if you look at, December 16, 2024, it topped out at 251, and then it tried to come back on December 26th at topped out at 247, and then right here
Mm-hmm.
on January 6th, it topped out at like 241. And then it just keeps, this is just to better to describe it. This just keeps coming down. Um, and I just don't like it. I don't know what you see, Cary, if you feel like what I'm showing you, would you
I
agree
see your
with?
point. I do agree with it, and I do look at gaps. I mean, I agree with your logic. But if I'm looking at kind of the big picture, that weekly chart, and the fact that we closed above that channel, and the fact that that channel held just last week, actually, we fell right back to it, and we rallied. We put out a new kind of a low for the last 4 weeks. We closed higher on the week. I think it's a bit of a mixed bag, actually. If you're looking at the near to midterm, we're in a consolidator framework. The question begs, what is our next buy signal to the upside near term? For me, it's
Yeah,
just closing above that weekly settlement price of 241.75. I think
co-
that is the kicker because it ends this
correct,
pattern that you're describing. These descending highs would be
correct.
done. And that
Yeah.
pattern, when a market disrupts a pattern, there are usually consequences. And in this case, it would be to the upside.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. Like, but if it doesn't do that, that's when you're gonna get that sliding down to 185 that you showed on the weekly
Mhm.
chart.
Right.
Because that
Which I
gap up.
indicate with the settlement below 217.50, the low of the high of
Yeah,
217.58. That is my indication. If we close below that, forget about it. Bail out of Broadcom, at least for the next month or two, because I agree with you, the mid 180s likely.
yeah. So and gaps don't, not all gaps fill. Just
Right.
just but it's when you see that on the chart, I personally like to pay attention to it. I like to pay attention to the, the descending highs, the 241. If it breaks over that, of course, get in. But what I'm trying to say, me personally, I would be wait if I'm not already in there, I would be waiting on the sideline until I get a
Mhm.
confirmation of, okay, is this going down? Is it going below 217 and breaking that channel? Then is this a short play, or is this a buy play and it breaks over the 241? That's how I'm reading it.
Right. I got you. No, that's a great way to play it. I think the big picture, though, for me, the fact that we close above that channel top, we have bullish momentum longer term. What I think you're kind of describing is kind of the near to midterm, which is like into February, into March, something like that. But what I'm seeing, like by the middle of the year, I think that the overall framework is bullish above that low 220s. So if I had to do one thing or another with Broadcom, I'm a bottom picker in the low 220s, and then I'm buying more above 241. But to your point, if we close below 217.58, not only do I exit a long position, but I even reverse and play the short side back into the mid 180s, because I think that is the reality at play at that time.
Yeah, that, yeah, it breaks that channel. It breaks the channel that, I mean, if it goes below 217, it breaks the channel on the weekly and also breaks the channel on the daily. That's kind of like
Right.
what I'm trying to say. But the
Mhm.
final question, the real question is, would you get in right now?
I would not. I think you're kind of in the middle. I would wait for it, because if you get in right now, you can quite easily fall back into the low 220s over the next week or two. So you're going to buy the upper 230s where we close 237 on Tuesday morning, and then just endure downward retracement to 220. I think it depends on your time frame. Some people are longer term investors and they just sort of just buy it because it's bullish. But if I like to get a good price location, and so I like to buy on the signal. I'm either buying, I'm bottom picking 220.65, or yes, I'm buying a settlement above 241.75, because I don't think the market's going to look back then. I think it's just going to continue onward and upward to new highs, the 293 area, and climbing a realistic objective then, I think, within a couple, 2, 3 months.
You know what bothers me, Carrie, to be honest with you, the most is, which I agree with you with price entry, is buying a stock and then it goes 10% lower. And then it
Yeah,
reverses. It's like, man, I could have waited a day, what I mean, or
right.
two. And then it's like, man, I could have got that extra 10%. And that's impossible at the time. But like, I'm like that. That's why I'm saying, like, I would rather wait on the sidelines, let it get all the fluff out. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Let it get to that.
Yes,
If it does fall below 217, let it get that. And then if it breaks out above 241, I don't want to be I don't want to be in the middle fighting for my life between 220 and 237. You know what I
sure.
mean? I don't want that. I don't want to be looking,
Hmm.
I'm down 10%, 15% of something I already got in. That's
Oh,
kind of
I
the
agree
reason why I
100%.
I stay on the sideline until I kind of, with definitely with stocks like Broadcom, I stay on the sideline with confirmation. Definitely when the chart looks like this.
Yeah, let the market come to you, right? Don't
Yeah,
chase it. That's kind of
don't
one of the
chase it.
adages I've
That
always
that
followed. Yeah.
um.
What else you want to
So
look
then,
at?
and
Oh,
I think the next one is like Salesforce.
yeah, Salesforce. So Salesforce is another one of those stocks where what to do, near term, long term. Long term, we tested this channel top back in December, 372.39 and climbing. And so when I see these longer term channels play out, and we tested the top of it, a month and a half ago, I have to respect the downside to channel support. I don't have that as a signal, by the way, 254.74, but just know that the channel bottom to the 372.39 channel top is 254.74. Now, we have, since testing this channel top, fallen back into these highs. You've got this November 21 high that held all the way into February of 24, several years, 311.75. You also have the February 24 high of 316.88. And following, this was a big head fake, closing above that all-time high, and then only to give it all back to 212 within about 3 months. So that's what's possible here. And I think if we close back below 311.75, that is your signal for 254.74, which I think is the risk right now anyway. And so if I'm a big picture investor and I were long Salesforce, I would have unloaded probably everything. And I wasn't at the time, but I would have unloaded everything at this. This is like a 3-year channel top. And then just sort of waited it out. Where am I going to buy it next? Near term, I might buy it in the 310s, but long term, I might be waiting for the mid 250s and climbing. And if we close below 311.75, we could see 254.74 and climbing within a matter of 2 to 3 months, where you could buy Salesforce through the rest of the year, because from here we can round up again. So that kind of covers the downside. The risk is weakness, but if we can close above 372.39, we're at a new all-time high. This thing can just run nicely. But that's the downside chart once again. Yeah, if we can close above 372.39, this thing can run into the 430s. Once again, you've got this full channel extension. And I didn't look at this yet, but there's going to be a full swing. Yeah, here we go. See, you take 311.75, that November 21 high, and you take it against this extreme low of December 22, which is like in the mid 120s, and your full swing takes you all the way up to 497.16. So that would be, the objective. And this is where you kind of put everything together. It's very subjective, and I don't mean to go down this rabbit hole here, but for one thing, you've got all kinds of buyers above these previous highs, so people got long here. But from a channel perspective, from a patternistic perspective, I don't really like this market to the upside unless we can close above this channel. So I recognize we have that full swing that many people are probably looking for as a long-term objective in the 496.46 area. I could see that logic, but maybe it's because I've been doing channels for too long that I don't really want to get long Salesforce, and I will with a settlement about 372.39. Then you've got a nice run to 439.95, which does over the next, well, what is it? It does coincide with that 497 area, in late February. So this is climbing at a pretty decent pace. Yeah, so there you have it. I don't know if you got any questions at all, but that's my take on Salesforce.
No, no, I agree with you on Salesforce. I would like to buy it more closer under $200.
Hmm.
That's where me personally, that's where I would not under $300. Sorry, it's crazy.
Okay.
Under
Yeah, I
three,
was gonna
under
say
three,
if we
crazy.
get if we get to $200, I don't like
We
this
got
thing
a
at all.
problem. No, no, we
Yeah,
got a problem.
exactly.
Under
So
three
we're
hundred
violating
dollars.
this. Hmm.
Under $300 is really like kind of where I would pique my interest, because if you go back to the Fibonacci, and I'll show you my chart, and I'll pull that up real quick. But if you go back to the
Okay, I
Fibonacci,
see. You've got a
yeah,
3/8 down here, 276
yeah,
long-term Fibonacci. I don't know which one you're
yeah.
looking at because you also have
No, I'm
one
looking
here, of
at
course.
the one that you pulled up, but like even if you look at the one that you just have right now, that 254 range, that 250 to 280 range is where I think is going to be going for the next 2 months, me
Hmm.
personally, and then I think it's going to make that full swing back up.
Sure.
If you do the A minus B plus A full swing methodology, you're probably gonna see that what was the lowest point here?
In on this chart here,
Yeah,
126.34 back in December of 22.
because I think it's gonna be somewhere near like 550 closer to the end of the year. 550,
Up,
almost 600.
okay. I'm in
That's
agreement with you, full agreement with you if we can close above 372.39.
of
That is
course.
my, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Mhm.
more talking about accumulation area. If somebody
I
wanted
gotcha.
accumulation, I would wait until like, let me just pull up my chart real quick. Um this is right here. I would wait until you start seeing kind of more where I have my channel. This is for the weekly right here. I would actually wait until like it keeps going down, because it seems like it keeps touching this support area. But I
Hmm.
personally think demand for this area, demand for this area is like right about here. Um,
Mm-hmm.
at that 304, 305 area. That's where I think demand really is. So if anybody can really see that, because for some reason my trend line is kind of wonky, but I would put demand right here at like 302, 303, um, to let that come down. And then if it doesn't capture demand, that's when you'll probably see this type of range where it was pretty choppy in this area a little bit of trading
Mm-hmm.
between October what 7th all the way to October 28th, and you see a spike up.
Sure.
And that's in the 280 range. But it it could not pass, it could pass and blow all that and get down to 254. But I would,
Mm-hmm.
if I start seeing a choppiness, say right here in this area where it stays choppy and it keeps going and it doesn't really move, I would probably tell you to
Mm-hmm.
start accumulating right here. That
Mm-hmm.
300 area, between 300 and 305. It's if it gets choppy for weeks on end. But besides that, I would be on the sidelines and waiting for that confirmation at 370 that Cary have, because
Yeah,
then
the
you'll be
breakout to the upside.
sorry, then you'll be buying into strength. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
you should. I'm saying this right here. I personally don't think you should be buying into the weakness of Salesforce.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
I would
think
agree with
that's
that,
a.
especially in
I
light of
don't
the fact
think
that
you
we
should be
tested that.
buying. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I do
the
not
channel
think.
top.
Yeah, I
The
just
risk
don't
is to
think
the
you should.
downside.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I do, by looking at, Cary's chart that I put back up, I kind of do see a M, you know what I mean? From,
Okay.
I kind of see a M, and usually got to finish that out. So that's where
Okay.
that's what I originally see from. I can't really see his point, but it's probably somewhere in the low 250s, way back. But I do see a M, and usually that when I see a M, it usually has to complete that around the 300 range and probably consolidate there for a little bit. So we probably have a
Mm-hmm.
good 24, $26 more to go on the downside, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, before I would start accumulating. But if you want to buy into strength, I would wait until that 371, 372. Well,
Yeah, these
to
are
tell you the
longer term perspectives, of course.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
I
agree with
wouldn't
you. Yeah.
I wouldn't even touch. Matter of fact, 373.
Yeah.
373 buying. If you're gonna buy into strength, 373 it's like a pure confirmation and a good ride up
Mm-hmm.
to $439. And after that,
Sure.
if you see a breakout or consolidation there, then you're probably gonna get closer to 600.
Yeah,
So
and you've got that full swing at 497, which
mhm.
this will rise into that anyway in the next month and a half. So I agree with you.
Yeah. So that's how I'm seeing it. I would first my first indication consolidation around the 300 area. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then if that consolidation does happen for like a couple weeks, if you want to accumulate, do it. That'd probably be a good time to accumulate some shares, because then you're
Mm-hmm.
buying into accumulation. You're buying into maybe just a trading pattern. I mean, it's staying in that range, and then if it swings up, at least you get to make an extra $72 per share, in my opinion, and you probably ride it up all the way to 439. So again, I
Sure.
guess an extra $139 if you want to put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a bigger risk. Just letting you know, it's a
Mm-hmm.
bigger risk.
Yes.
So
Yes. I agree.
because it could easily fall down to 254. Just
Yeah, it could. That is kind of the inclination, you might say, or
yeah,
the market's susceptible to it. I don't have a signal for that. I am a
yeah,
little concerned if we close back below 311.75 because I think there are a lot of longs that got in here. That's one of the
yeah,
pops, I think, technically.
yeah,
And if we
correct.
close below it, they're just going to be dumping it. And I think the risk is then into the mid two. And this is climbing, by the way. This channel bottom will be in the 280s by
Yeah.
July. So,
Hmm.
it depends on the timing is everything on this stuff, of course.
That's why I'm saying if it closed below 311 and stays around that 300 mark, and it can stay there like that choppy for like a couple weeks,
Hmm.
say like 3 or 4 weeks, that's when I'll buy. I'll accumulate a couple shares, but less than that, I wouldn't. I would wait. Like this is the chart pattern. You have to wait until it breaks above 372.
Hmm.
Like me personally, I think it's going to the downside. I think it's going to the downside. I think it's going all the way and finishing the pattern that I see on the chart, and I think around 280 by July, you're more likely going to see, and then you're probably going to start seeing a full swing up. So
Hmm.
I wouldn't really touch this stock until that happens.
Okay. You want me to
Yeah.
show, let's see, do you want me to show Zillow?
Oh yeah. So Zillow, and then after that, we got Applied Digital after, and that'll be the last
Okay.
one.
All right. Yeah. Well, let's do Applied Digital now, because
Okay.
that was one of your requests. So here again, kind of in the midst of a zone. Where do you buy it? Where do you sell it? I buy it on strength above 1025, and I buy it on weakness below in this zone. I mean, ideally 651, but 785 also all day long. You have this inside channel that's been holding the last few weeks. So if you want to call this a range of support, once again, this comes down to your time horizon. If you're a longer term position trader, you might scale into a long, buy some at 785. If we close below 785, we're likely to test 651. But this is a meaningful channel structure. It goes back to June of last year. It is a solid, 6, 8, 9 month channel structure. Can contain selling into the second quarter. From here, we should continue higher. The trend remains bullish above 651. If we close below 651, that's another story altogether. I would see a big sell signal in Applied that could play out into the second, third quarter, where within 3 to 5 months of closing below 651, this significant long-term channel well below at 217, not out of the question as a possible long-term objective, but only if we close below 651. So getting back to my original point, I'm bottom picking the 651 to 785 area all day long. And if I don't get that opportunity, I will buy a settlement above 1025, because I do think that this is the ultimate sort of objective in the upper $12 area. I'm going to go back to this chart again and just say that this channel bottom has a channel top. You can't put it all on one chart, because if you do, it looks like one royal mess. So this is your support chart, same exact chart. This is your resistance chart. And we've got this kind of two-sided framework for the last 3, 4, 5 weeks now that ends with a settlement above 1025 this week. Then we've got, this is a solid 20% pop plus to the upside, closing above 10 and a quarter, looking for the upper 12s. This is a big trouble spot for Applied. This is an area, this long-term channel, this rising channel, you got a midterm channel, long-term channel, all converging in the upper $12 area that could contain buying on a quarterly, if not annual basis. And yes, if we can close about 1298, this thing will just continue kind of a parabolic move to the upside. But closing above 1025 within 3 to 5 weeks, the upper $12 area where profits can be taken. Until then, we could ease back into this 651, 785 area where you can also buy it into the second quarter, and expecting upward continuation into that upper 12 area that I showed once again right here. So it kind of rounds out Applied Digital from my perspective. What do you think?
I agree. If it falls below that into that $6 range, is really gonna be a straight shot to that $2.
Mm-hmm.
It's really just gonna be just a complete dump. So the volume gotta be there for it to accelerate to that $12 range. Um,
Mm-hmm.
am I a buyer at this price level? Um, I would say no, just for like
Mm-hmm.
on the smart money side. But
Right.
because it's like $8, I'll
Almost
probably,
9.
yeah, almost nine. Um, I would put a small amount of money in and keep my stop loss really, really short. It's like
Mm-hmm.
extremely short. but the breakout above $10, I'm definitely, if it breaks out above $10, this is one of the stocks you buy into the strength. Um,
Right.
and
This
you
could be
try
a
to keep,
this is like be a 3 to 5 week move because we see
yeah,
all this rotational precedence for that to happen.
correct. And what I would do is um between 10 to, if it breaks above 10 and closes above 10.25 and breaks above it, I would try to accumulate as much as I can before it hits that target mark of 10.29 and see if it push higher. That would kind of be my trading plan. Um, Buying under 10.25, it's opening yourself to at least more risk. I would say you're putting
Yeah, if you
yourself
buy
at,
it in the present location, your risk
yeah,
is seeing 785 by the end of this
yeah,
week. I mean,
yeah.
we could continue plodding along here. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a significant risk. I would say you're putting yourself at 80% risk buying it at this level. And if you do, I know there's people that's going to say, no, I'm going to do it anyways. If you do, I'll just keep my 727 $7.85. I would, once I saw that level, I'm out. Um,
Hmm.
that would be done. It's really, once it gets into the 650s, you're probably going to see a straight shot into twos easy.
Sure, I agree with that. This is a solid sell signal. Head for the hills if we close below 651 or buy $2
Yeah.
puts, you know.
So that is true. Um, I do have one thing. Apply Digital CEO is going to be on Marathon Money. Um,
Okay, great.
so let's hope we
When's
can hit.
that?
That's April 29th.
Okay.
So it's going to be on Marathon Money. A lot of good things been coming out about them, but me and Carrie been doing this for a long time. Eventually, news wear off, and then people start selling their shares. Definitely, if they made, definitely if you was in it around the $2 range from previously, and this is where people start to sell off. So you're probably going to see the steam start to cool off unless something else comes out about this company.
Hmm. Yeah. Should we take a look at Zillow? Do I
Let's
have it?
take a look.
Where are you?
Let's take a look at Zillow.
Let me see. There we go. I've got to go behind these charts. So Zillow, Wicked Stocks put out a buy signal on Zillow. We had a bit of a head fake here, but we use the 1% mark all the time. And this was right at the 1% mark. So it was kind of a wait and see. And I'm glad we wait and saw this market kind of ease back. But the week of November 4th, we cleared not only the channel top, but also we cleared it by 1%. And that's now at 67.91. So you're buying the upper 60s, 67.91, climbing gradually. You can see after rallying, we fell almost back to it, and we dropped back inside the 1% zone the last 2 weeks. Bottom picking, we've been telling our clients the upper 60s, 67.91 is your base, and anticipating then this channel top as an objective, a realistic objective. And the question is, what is the signal for reaching 96.28? Buying the upper 60s, waiting for the upper 90s. And we got it last week. And that's one of the reasons I'm bringing up in the show is I can zoom in here a little bit and just show that we did close, and I'm going to recreate it here, a channel top. We closed above. So two things happened last week. We closed above the high of the low that was put out the previous week. And that is in itself a sign of strength and just pure bar chart analysis. And there's also this well-defined kind of a 2-month channel top that this week is 74.47. So I'm going to write that down just in case people want to know what the support is for the week ahead. And that is 74.47. You also have the high of the low of 76.29. So you're buying the mid 70s now because I don't think you're going to see the upper 60s anytime soon. The upper 60s was sort of the opportunity to go along into the mid to upper 90s. And I think what you have now, like we were talking before, Kenny, where you're either buying it on weakness, which some people are uncomfortable with, bottom picking the 67.91 channel top, or you're then buying on strength following a testing of that support. And this is essentially what's happened. So we're bullish above 74.47. And I'll recreate that channel right here just so you can kind of see the visuals of it. Bullish above this channel, expecting now. Now, this could be quick. It could be within 3 to 5 weeks, or it could take several months. You never really know. but I do see, that's 96.28 channel top, which I'll just let you know that over the next month, will be in the low 100s, like 102, 100, 100.98 the week of February 17th, 102.16 the week of February 24th. So I see it as more like a low 100s objective of following that fresh buy signal last week above 74.47. Now, if we break 74.47, that only indicates 67.91, which I see as a solid zone. This channel goes back several years, and it did hold here beautifully and fell away to channel support within several months. This was like, a December 23 high area, and this was an April 24 low area. And then we closed above it this particular week, but right at the 1% mark. And it was the week of November 4th where it was a clear buy signal expecting this channel top. So, or some variation of that channel top. It's a pretty dynamic approach. But right now it's 96.28. Yeah, but Fibonacci's too long-term in Zillow. I could draw
Yeah,
those. And
I
you've got a
I,
coincidence here,
I
95.65. This is
yeah,
a realistic area, the mid 90s.
I completely agree. With Zillow, Zillow's been a long time marathon money. Man, we had it for a really long time. I think we had I think we have a whole bunch of shares at like at the $20 range. We've been in Zillow since
Oh, nice.
2017. Um,
Mm-hmm.
been in there for a really long time. I just want to
Wow.
pull up my chart because I really truly
Sure.
agree with Cary on Zillow. This green box is my supply and demand. This is something I already did. It's entered my demand area. So as you can see, I would with this stock would buy into weakness, 100%, because every time it got the wick got to the bottom of the chart, it was eaten up, and then as it got into demand area, that last area, that demand area, it ate that up. So you can see as the week of December 30th, it came down to the low 72, and the buyers just kept eating it up as it entered the demand area, and then it
Mm-hmm.
went further down into that demand, and it still got eaten up when it got further deep into the demand as the low 69 low. So 72, 69 low, and then when it opened down here at on the week of January 13th, it opened at $70. It was just a clear to close above demand. So to me, this area would be accumulation area. If it
Mm-hmm.
does like head into demand, I would try to accumulate as much as I can. I do truly believe you accumulate. This is not where I would say you buy into strength. Um, where I would say to buy into strength is where Cary said to buy into strength, closer to above like the $84 range mark is where I'll start buying into strength if that's what you want to do. But less
There's
than
a
that,
rationale for that. The high settlement price on the weekly chart was put out the week of Thanksgiving, and that is 84.71, that black
yeah,
bar. So I
yeah,
agree with you.
that's
That is your next buy signal, right?
yeah, that's where I would buy into strength. But for those, I know there's a lot of people that likes to accumulate when this stuff happens, when you are getting into that supply range. Um, that supply range happens, that demand range, where I'm showing where that green chart is. A lot of people like to buy, but if it does fall outside of the channel, I would stop. But I always gonna advocate you guys buy into strength than anything. But if you guys want to accumulate shares, if it can stay between 78 and 71, 77 and 71, I would definitely do it. And I feel like it's probably going to charter for a little bit. And then definitely because real estate is one of the biggest topics of the market today, don't you think?
Hmm.
Um,
Yes, and there's no surprise that we had a big rally last week with those inflation numbers that were much lower. This allows the Fed to lower rates. It's just to sort of puts a floor in under the real estate market. to some extent. It underscores strength, and I think that's what we're seeing here. I see, after having come close to testing this channel, I see a buy signal actually. I don't want to get carried away with it, but I think above 74.47 and then above the previous week's high of 76.29. I think this is your pop within a week or two, maybe by the end of this week, up to this 84.71 area. And then this could keep going up to 96.28. This is your sell zone on a long position if you're kind of a 3 to 5 week, 2 to 3 month position trader. If you're accumulating, you're buying the upper 60s and just sort of holding.
You're buying at the bottom of the chart. Once it touches the bottom of that channel, you're kind of
Mm-hmm.
trying to buy as much as you can. But I'm with you. I do think um this is probably going to be a turnaround for Zillow. I wouldn't be surprised if this week you see $80. This
Mm-hmm.
week just a shot up to 80, definitely after having a good last week
Sure.
on the charts, definitely on the weekly. Usually I love to see, I feel like a three white horse might happen here, where you see three weeks of green candles, and after that you see a
Mm-hmm.
spike. I think that might happen. Um, but the confirmation of that really happening would be the $84.71. Because once you see the three white horsemen, it's usually a straight shot up to that
Mm-hmm.
$9,600 range.
Sure. Yeah, I agree.
Well, everybody, that's it for today. It's inauguration day. Trump is uh being sworn in today. What time is that, by the way?
I don't know, but as I recall, I've watched just about every inauguration, and since I was a kid, I think it's like around noon or 1 o'clock
Oh,
Eastern time. But
it's 11:11. You know, it's
oh,
probably
is it?
almost time. It's 11:11 on my
Oh, it's
side.
11:11 now. Okay, I thought you meant
Yeah,
the yeah.
it's 11:11 on my side. But yo, everybody enjoy your week. Thank you. Hey, leave comments below. Check out wickedstocks.com. If you guys are looking for in-depth trading, I know Cary puts analysis every morning out. Check those out on YouTube. Check his stuff out. He'll tell you when to get entries. And Applied Digital is going to be on Marathon Money, so check that out. And then I do trading strategies for it, even though you got a hint of what kind of the plays are going to be. But yo, peace.